ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सवना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सवना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we'll continue from where we left. It is 32nd sloka of the 10th chapter, the last chapter of the second canto. And we are there uh, in the point where the various Adhyatmik, Adidaivik, and Adibhautik entities have been described, how the various sense organs have come about into its existence, and then the sense organ, then the controlling deity, who controls the sense organs and things like that. So all those things we were seeing. So let's continue in the same lines. Uh, गुणात्मकानीन्द्रियाणि भूतादि प्रभवा गुणाः मनः सर्वविकारात्मा बुद्धिर्विज्ञानरूपिणी. The sense organs are attached to the modes of material nature, and the modes of material nature are products of the false ego. The mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, that is broadly classified under happiness and distress, and the intelligence is the feature of mind's deliberation. So this is going more technical into the system of the sense organs, the mind, and intelligence. So this is the hierarchy. So even in Gita course, we discuss these aspects of how this hierarchy is working, like the senses, and on top of it is the mind, and on top of it is the intelligence, right? And let's see the purport. Purport: illusion by the material nature, the living entity identifies with false ego. Hmm. So this is the primary first, this one. So the relation between the living entity and the material nature, there is no actual relation. No, this false relation is called as the false ego or false identification. Right? More clearly, when the living entity is entrapped by the material body, he at once identifies with the bodily relationships, forgetting his own identity as spirit soul. This false ego associates with different modes of material nature, and thus the senses become attached to the modes of material nature. Right? So this false ego associates with different modes of material nature. So it is the false ego is the one, which is actually binding us to this material world, and this false ego, can be conditioned by any of these different modes. And if the modes are we have become purified of all the three modes of material nature, that means it is very less effect or no effect of the false ego. So we can come to the real ego. Ego means identification, so false ego means false identification. So now if I say suddenly, if I say that I'm the prime minister of this country and things like that, so it's a false identification. Everybody will say like, no, he has gone mad and things like that. So that's what exactly has happening with us is happening with us. No, all of us in one sense are a little bit in the crazy kind of a form, wherein no, we are actually spirit souls and we don't have anything to do with this material body and things like that. And all the people whom we think as our relatives and things like that, they are also spirit souls. They also don't have anything to do with the material body. But no, we live in a completely false kind of a world wherein we don't know the person whom we are interacting with. We are interacting with some kind of a material like exposure, and we think that to be the real. So it is as good as no we saying that no, I am the prime minister of the country and things like that. It's many bhajans of the Vaishnava acharyas, they actually mention that it is almost like a crazy state, like kind of crazy state that we are in the material world. So this false ego, due to the association of the material modes, so like it creates different kind of identities, and then those things are manifest in the form of senses, right? So the body that is that we have got is the product of the three modes of nature, and it is based on the false ego's association with the three modes of nature, right? So, and thus the senses become attached to the material modes of material nature. So mind is the instrument for feeding different material experiences, but intelligence is deliberative and can change everything for better. The intelligent person, therefore, can attain salvation from the illusion of material existence by proper use of intelligence. So we had, in the Gita course, we discuss about this aspect of mind's function is, I like this and I don't like this. So I want it, I don't want it. So this is kind of, it works based on likes and dislikes. And and that is based on the attraction of the three modes of nature, how the mind is conditioned, mind and the senses are conditioned by the three modes of nature. And we get attracted to whatever the conditioning we have. So most of the times people say like, no, I like this, I'm such and such a person, I don't like this, and things like that. So that means like they are still wanting to live with their three modes of nature. Intelligent person will say, okay, whether I like it or not, this is what is good for me. Why this is good for me? This is told by the sadhus, this is told by the scriptures, and this is what is the right. And I must just bulldoze my mind, and I should just accept the path that is being given by the Supreme Lord. So then, no, that is called intelligence, right? So intelligence is deliberative, and mind is saying, okay, fine, this is what I like. No, this is what I want, and things like that. So that is this is the thing. So either we can just be there in the control of the three modes of nature. Accepting the whims of the mind means like being under the control of three modes of nature, and taking the scriptures into account, and taking the guidance of the Supreme Lord into account, and doing things. So that is spiritually beneficial. So, for example, even Arjuna, he was affected by, like, seemingly affected by the three modes of nature. He told that I don't want to fight, for this reason, that reason, so many reasons he gave. So then Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita. After that, Arjuna told, okay, fine. So, like, whether I like it or not, no, because it is your decision and it is your call, no, I must execute it. So that's the position of intelligence, right? So intelligence and the mind works in completely different way. So, mm, an intelligent person can detect the awkward position of material existence, and thus begin to inquire as to what he is, why he is subjected to different kinds of miseries, and how to get rid of all miseries. And thus, by good association, an advanced intelligent person can turn towards the better life of self-realization. It is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with the great sages and saints who are on the path of salvation. So, by such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's attachment for matter, and thus the intelligent man gradually gets rid of the illusion of matter and false ego, and is promoted to the real life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So this is amazingly mentioned about the sadhu sangha. So like there is a nice sloka which says, sadhu sangha, sarva shastra kahe, lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hai. So that is a Bengali sloka which comes in Chaitanya Leela. So it says that the sadhu sangha is so powerful. So lava matra sadhu sangha. So even as like even a fraction of a second of sadhu sangha is so powerful that it can actually sarva siddhi hoy. So that means it can actually award all the perfections of life, right? So it is that is how powerful the sadhu sangha is. And in ISKCON we are very very like fortunate to have so many devotees and association of so many devotees, and getting in touch with them and discussing about the Lord and how they are applying Krishna consciousness in their life and things like that. So it actually gives a lot of insights. And we are going through some problem, and already somebody has gone through that problem, and then they have there is lots of experience to be shared and things like that. So it's very, very amazing, and it is a saving grace. Sadhu Sangha is the saving grace. So we can actually we can feel very, very protected in the association of the devotees. Okay, so let's continue. Text, I think we finished that, right? Yeah. Text 33. Etad bhagavato rupam stulam te vyahrutam maya maya adibis chavaranair ashtabir bahiravrutam. Thus, by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by the gross forms, such as those of the planets, which were explained to you by me. So this external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by the gross forms. Especially here, it is mentioned as Avarana Ashtabi by 8. No, so that Prabhupada will be explaining that in the purport. So 8 means like this Bhumi Rapa Analo Vayo Kammano Buddhirevacha, like Ahankara Miti Amme Binna Prakritir Ashtada. So this Ashta is this 8 number is a very significant. So the number 8 means the 8 material elements. So that is the external energy of the Lord. So that's why it is mentioned. Thus, by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by the gross forms, such as those of the planets, which were explained to you by me. So let's see this one. Yeah, Prabhupada is also quoting 7.4. So that is Bhumi Rapa Anla Vayo. So that's shloka. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 7.4, the separated material energy of the personality of Godhead is covered by 8 kinds of material coverings. That is earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these are emanations from the personality of Godhead as His external energy. These coverings are just like the coverings of clouds for the sun. The cloud is a creation of the sun, yet it actually covers the eyes so that one cannot see the sun. So this example we had seen many times about this aspect of cloud covering the sun, and no, its cloud is created by the sun, and it can be dissipated by the sun. And cloud can only cover a portion of the sun, and portion of the sun means like to a particular portion of earth, like the cloud can be invisible. So it can only cover a portion. It cannot cover the entire sun, that nobody from anywhere can see the sun. So that is not possible. The sun is so huge than the clouds. So this example is a very, very important example to understand our position, the position of the Lord, and the position of the material nature. So the sun is compared to the Lord. We are compared to the observers, and the clouds are compared to the material nature or illusion. Okay, so let's see the purport. The sun cannot be covered by the clouds. The cloud can at most extend a few hundred of miles in the sky, but the sun is far greater than millions of miles. So 100 miles covering is not competent to cover millions of miles. Therefore, one of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord. So this material nature is Binna Prakriti Ashtada. So that means the Lord is telling, this is my separated material energy. So Binna means like separated. Binna Prakriti means energy. So Binna Prakriti Ashtada. So he mentions that in the same shloka 7.4 of Bhagavad Gita. So the material nature is nothing but the energy of the Lord. And how can energy of the Lord cover the Lord himself? The Lord is more greater than the energy that is produced by him, right? So actually the conditioned souls are covered by the illusory creative cloud of matter, and the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to their eyes. Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrita. The Lord reserves the right, for not being exposed. So, like we cannot say that forcibly, I must see the Lord, and I will, remove the illusion, and I'll see the Lord. It's not possible. The Lord has to, uncover Himself. Just like if clouds cover the sky, we don't have any means to dissipate the cloud and see the sun. So if it on its own, if it goes, then it's there. Otherwise, we don't have the power to dissipate the clouds, right? Okay, so because they have no eyes of transcendental vision and because they cannot see the personality of Godhead, therefore they deny the existence of the Lord and the transcendental form of the Lord. Right? So this is the condition of the materialistic people. No, because the Lord is covered, and they say like, no, there is no God, no who has seen the God, and things like that. So the covering of the gigantic material feature is accepted by such men with a poor fund of knowledge. And how this is so is explained in the following verse. So the materialistic people, they only accept the covering. What is the covering? Covering is the material nature, the material illusory nature, which is manifest in the form of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this is what the materialistic people will see. And this is what they will work upon. So the grossly materialistic people, they work upon the gross matter. The subtly materialistic people, they work upon the mind, control of mind, and intelligence and things like that. And even more subtle, materialistic people, they work on, what is it, moksha and liberation and things like that, the jnanis. So that is also kind of, one kind of materialism only. So nothing to do with the Supreme Lord, right? So, like spiritualist means he works on pleasing the Supreme Lord. No, he has Supreme Lord in the equation. The moment Supreme Lord is not there in the equation, we may be dealing with any of these elements, or we may be trying to get out of any of these elements. That is the moksha. So still it is called materialism only. No, it is different shades of materialism. That's all. So there is nothing to do with, no, spiritualism means it needs the touch of the Supreme Lord. We can say like this aiming for moksha and all is partial spiritualism, wherein they are able to identify themselves as soul, but still they are not able to identify the source of this soul. No, aparyaya mitastvanyam prakritim viddhime param jiva bhuta mahabaho yedam darete jahat. So the living entity is connected to the Supreme Lord. So understanding that I am spirit soul is also not sufficient. No, understanding that I am part and parcel of Supreme Lord, no, that is still higher intelligence. No, and even more higher intelligence is because I am part and parcel of the Lord, I must engage in the service of the Lord. So that is the ultimate understanding, right? So we can see this the jnanis, the people, the practitioners of jnana yoga. So they want moksha. No, they want to get out of this material, this one, and then remain as soul. No, that is the lowest form of transcendentalism, we can say, or lowest form of spiritual understanding. And little more higher form is to understand I am part and parcel of the Lord. The Lord is the maintainer of everything, and He is the one who is supplying everything. So that is like Paramatma realization. And then to understand that, to feel grateful for the Lord's, means Lord being our loving master, and to render service unto Him and to engage in loving reciprocation with the Supreme Lord, that is Bhakti Yoga. No, that is the topmost. No, that's the perfect realization of the Supreme existence, right? So, anyways, so like we'll continue the next sloka, 34. Ataparam sukshmatamam vyaktam nirviseshanam avyaktam nirviseshanam anadi madhya nidanam nityam van manasaparam. Therefore, beyond this gross manifestation is a transcendental manifestation, finer than the finest form. So that's like we have the earth, water, fire, air, ether. No, each one is progressively finer than the previous one. And then ether means the space, and still more finer than ether is the mind, and still more finer than mind is the intelligence, and still more finer than intelligence is the false ego, and still more finer than the false ego is the soul. And that spirit, or the soul, is spiritual in nature. And here it is mentioned that the transcendental manifestation beyond this material manifestation, that is this Vaikuntha lokas, are made of such kind of a material that is still very, very finer, sukshma. If we go with our gross eyes and we say that, okay, show me the Vaikuntha, even if we are shown, we cannot see anything, right? So we don't have the proper apparatus to see and envision and then be there in that kind of spiritual realm. So we need to develop that kind of an apparatus, that kind of a body, spiritual body, to even experience the spiritual things. It is not just possible to barge into the spiritual world just like that. So No, it is very, very finer forms. No, it has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. So when it is mentioned about the material world, it talks about Janmadhyasya Yataha. So Janmadi means like the creation, maintenance, and destruction. So these three things are always there in the material world. So the anything in the material world is created and it maintains for some time and then it is destroyed. So that's how that's the three phases in which we study everything in the material world. But then in the spiritual world, these three phases are not there. There is no point of creation, and there is no point of destruction, and there is no point of intermediate stage. No, there is no beginning and end. There is no intermediate stage, right? So it is always existing, sanatana. That's why it is mentioned as sanatana dhamma. So even the living entity is also called as sanatana because he cannot be destroyed. There is no beginning to him. No, there is no end to him, right? So that's why these are all sanatana entities. So therefore, it is beyond the limits of expression or mental speculation and is distinct from material conception. So therefore, the Vaikuntha Lokas, the transcendental abodes, they are beyond the description because we don't have an experience of such thing in the material world. The material world, we are constantly being challenged with non-permanent existence. All things that we are seeing around, it's all temporary. Everything that we know, okay, fine, I will lose it at certain point in time. Deep from within, we have an idea that everything should go on. We should live on, and everyone around us should live on, and things like that. But unfortunately, we are there in the material world. We are covered by material elements. And material elements, the nature of material elements is it is created, it it maintains for some time and it destroys. That's the nature of material element, right? So, like, why such a thing has to be created? Such a thing has to exist because originally this material nature was not there. Originally, everything is spirit, and in spiritual world, everything is permanent. And when we wanted a temporary arrangement, an arrangement which needs to be created, an arrangement which is completely foreign to us, so then it will have a beginning. If it has a beginning, it has an end also. And if it has beginning and end, it has a maintenance period in between, right? So everything comes by that logical sequence, right? So that which doesn't have a beginning doesn't have an end also, and that which has a beginning, it has an end also, right? So that's the logic behind this. Okay, let's see the purport. The gross external body of the Supreme is manifested at certain intervals, and thus the external feature or form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not the eternal form of the Lord, which has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. Anything which has a beginning, interim, and end is called material. The material world is begun from the Lord, and thus the form of the Lord before the beginning of material world is certainly transcendental to the finest or the finer material conceptions. So whatever may be the finest things that are there, the Lord must be still more finer. So that's how he is able to manifest all these other things. So the ether in the material world is considered to be the finest. Finer than the ether is mind, intelligence, and false ego. But all 8 of the outward coverings are explained as outer coverings of the absolute truth. The absolute truth is therefore beyond the expression and speculation of the material conception. He is certainly transcendental to all material conceptions. This is called nirviseshanam. Nirviseshanam. So Vishesha means something special, or it has an existence, or it has some kind of a perception and things like that. Nirvisesha means there is no Vishesha. No, that means there is no, basically there is no, it's kind of, the Mayavadis use this word quite often. So Nirvisesha means like, no, he doesn't have, the Lord doesn't have any qualities. The Lord doesn't have any form. The Lord doesn't have any attributes of that sort. So, but then here we see the Vaishnava understanding of Nirviseshanam. Let's see the purport. One should not, however, misunderstand Nirviseshanam as being without any transcendental qualifications. Visheshanam means material, means qualities. Therefore, Nir added to it means that he has no material qualities or variegatedness. So the Supreme Lord is not having any material qualities. That is what is the meaning of Nirvisesha. So Nirvisesha doesn't mean that he doesn't have any qualities at all. He has spiritual qualities. He doesn't have any material qualities. It's just like saying, do not drink and drive. That means it is understood that liquor should not be drunk. No, there is no ban in drinking water. So no, that doesn't mean that no one should not drink water. So that is the way in which this has to be understood. No, Nirvishesha means this nullifying expression is described in four transcendental qualifications, namely unmanifested, transcendental, eternal, and beyond the conception of mind or words. So these are all the different ways. No, this thing is explained. No, so what are them? Transcendental qualifications. No, that is namely unmanifested. Nirvisesha means unmanifested, and it is mentioned as transcendental. That means beyond the material creation, and then eternal. That means it has no beginning or end, sanatana, and beyond the conception of mind and word, mind or words. So that is how this nirvisesha has to be understood in this context. So beyond the limit of words means negation of the material conception. All that we can describe through our words is only matter. We cannot describe the spirit through words. So through our speculative words. The Bhagavatam we are reading, that is also words, but then these words are spoken either by the Lord directly or by the devotees of the Lord. So they have the spiritual potency. But then if we try to frame some words, we will not be able to address the supreme or absolute truth by our combination of words. That is why Srila Prabhupada mentions Bhagavad Gita as it is. Because this thing, this Bhagavad Gita can be called as spiritual only if it is repeated in the parampara. If it is if I just speak my speculation, so then it is not as it is. Then it spoils. Then it doesn't have its reality or spiritual effect. So that is the very important aspect of the parampara, means without any change. The subject matter has to be passed on without any change. Krishna has given the spiritual sound vibration, and that same spiritual vibration, if it is not changed, the parampara after the one after another, when the knowledge is passed down, the same spiritual vibration is felt by the by nth generation, by any number of generation of Guru Sishya Parampara can come. If the matter is not changed, it will have the same spiritual potency and it will have the same power, right? So, but if it is changed, if somebody's mental speculation is added inside, oh, then it spoils. Then the whole thing is spoiled. So then we will not get that spiritual energy, and we will. It will be another form of materialism. That's all, right? Okay, so beyond limits of words means negation of material conception. Unless one is transcendently situated, it is not possible to know the transcendental form of the Lord. So it is to enter fire, we need to be fire. So to approach the Supreme Lord, we need to be also in the same transcendental plane. We also need to be liberated in that kind of this one. And that is how, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, chant the names of the Lord. So though these entities are non-different from the Lord, initially we are not able to perceive the Lord, because the initial effect is to cleanse our mind and heart of all the anarthas, all the abhadra that is there. So once the cleansing process is done, so then we will come to the transcendental plane. Then the same holy name, same Bhagavatam, we will be able to relate with them in a much, much more different way. We will be able to relate with them as good as the Supreme Lord. So whenever we chant the names of Hare Krishna, immediately we'll feel that the Lord is present here. I can converse with the Lord, I can reciprocate with the Lord, and things like that. So that's the effect that we will get in the purified state. The same entities that we are relating with now, we will be relating with them, in a completely different way. So there is nothing different is going to happen. Even in the purified stage, we are going to chant, we are going to discuss Bhagavatam. Even in the contaminated state, we are chanting and we are discussing Bhagavatam. So the external process is not going to change. The internal experience is going to change, right? The same thing what we are doing. We are not going to reinvent anything. We are not going to do something, completely out of the box or something like that. The same thing we are going to do, but then the experience is going to change. The internal experience and transformation is going to change. So that's what is very important. So spiritual practice is, it's not that, oh, this is like ABCD, what you are doing now. Chanting and discussing Bhagavatam is ABCD. After you are graduate, you will do something great, something really different. Nothing like that. This is the same thing. Even liberated souls, they do the same thing. Even the residents of Vaikuntha, they also do the same thing what we are doing. But the way in which they do and what they perceive and what is the experience that they get, That is the different, no, that's the different thing. So it is, the day one, we are given the ultimate thing, of perfection. So only the thing is that our sadhana and our sincerity and how well we are, attracting the mercy of the Lord and the devotees. So then we will be able to perfect, the whole thing very soon. Okay. So text 35. Uh, Amuni Bhagavat Rupe Maya Tehi Anuvartine Anuvarnite Ube Api Na Granati Maya Shishte Vipaschitah. Neither of the above forms of the Lord, as just described unto you from the material angle of vision, is accepted by the pure devotees of the Lord who know him well. Hmm. So neither of the above forms of the Lord are as just described unto you from the material angle of vision is accepted by the pure devotees of the Lord who know him well. So what is the forms that we had discussed? We had discussed the Virata Rupa, and we have discussed the external manifestation of the Lord in the form of the eight elements. And so these forms are material, imaginary forms of the Lord. And this helps the neophytes to focus on the Lord, saying, okay, fine. So I'm able to see the trees and vegetations. Oh, this is the hairs in the body of Virata Rupa. And then I'm able to see the sun and moon. Oh, this is the eyes of the Virata Rupa, and things like that. So this is very good for the neophytes to focus. Okay, no, this is a way of perceiving the Supreme Lord. So that is very nice. No, it helps in the advancement of the neophyte people. But then those devotees who are purified and they are seeing the divine transcendental form of the Lord already, no, for them, no, they don't accept this form to be ultimate, or this form, they don't focus on it much. So like that. Purport. The impersonalists think of absolute personality of Godhead in two different ways, as above mentioned. On the one hand, they worship the Lord in his Vishwarupa or Virata Rupa, or all-pervading universal form. And on the other, they think of the Lord's unmanifested, indescribable, subtle form. So that is the Brahma Rupa, right? So the theories of pantheism or monotheism are respectively applicable to those two conceptions of supreme as gross and subtle, but both of them are rejected by the learned pure devotees of the Lord because they are aware of the factual position. So pantheism means accepting many gods. No, that is pantheism. Just a minute. A doctrine that identifies God with the universe or regards the universe as the manifestation of God. Okay, pantheism means like, no, this is Virata Rupa understanding is the pantheism. So that means they understand the nature and the whole material world, whatever we are seeing, that to be the God. And monotheism is a theory or doctrine that denies the existence of a distinction or duality in some sphere, such as that between matter and mind or God and the world. So the doctrine that only one supreme being exists. So actually speaking, we are monotheistic. Our monotheism is that Krishna is one supreme personality of Godhead. But here, when Prabhupada is using this monotheism, he is using in a different way. So he's using in a different way. He is saying that monotheism means like the Brahman being the supreme. No, that is what he's mentioning here. So pantheism means the universal form, accepting the Virata Rupa to be the Lord, and monotheism means accepting the Brahman to be the absolute. No, both of them are rejected by the devotees of the Lord, right? So who knows the factual position? So what is the actual thing? Actual thing is the Supreme Lord exists, and he is what is that? He is a transcendental person, and all that is existing in the whole creation is nothing but his energies. No, this is the ultimate understanding of the Supreme Lord, right? So, okay. This is very clearly mentioned in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which records Arjuna's experience of the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Adrishtapurvam prishito smi drishtva bhayena cha pravayit pravetam manome tad eva me darsha deva rupam prasida devasya jagannivasa. Arjuna, as a pure devotee of the Lord, never previously saw the contemplated universal form of the Lord, that is Vishwarupa. But when he did see it, his curiosities were satisfied. But he was not happy to see such a form of the Lord because of his attachment as a pure devotee. He was afraid to see the gigantic form of the Lord. He therefore prayed to the Lord to assume his four-handed Narayana or Krishna form, which alone could please Arjuna. Right. So this is very clear. This one, that if that is the form that is ultimate, then Arjuna would have told, "Oh, now I have got the real amazing vision of the Lord." So he would have been rejoicing. But he was telling, "No, no, 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 I don't want this form. No, you just turn back to Krishna form, like that." No. So that's the this one. Undoubtedly, the Lord has the supreme potency to um, exhibit himself in multifarious forms, but the pure devotees of the Lord are interested in his forms as eternally exhibited in the abode of the Lord, known as the Tripada Vibhuti or Kingdom of God. So this is a very important aspect. Sometimes people think, no, Krishna showing Virata Rupa is something great. No, but Virata Rupa is a lower form. No, Krishna's form is more higher than the Virata Rupa. Why? Because no, in that form, no, we can actually relate with the Lord. We can actually like no, he's a lovable person. We can actually relate with him. We can render service to him and things like that. What we can do with the Virata Rupa? No, it is very difficult even to conceive of, and it is very bhayanak. No, it is not a very pleasant form to look upon, right? And the Lord is not such a horrible person. No, the Lord is a very lovable person. So Lord, though he can exhibit any kinds of forms, still he has a personal choice and personal a personality for him. No, he has personal likes and dislikes, and no, he is a very lovable person in that way. So that is his original form. That is Krishna Rupa, and a devotee wishes to see the Supreme Lord in his original form. No, he doesn't want to see the Lord in the Vishwarupa or this Virata Rupa form, right? So, okay. The Lord in the Tripada Vibhuti abode exhibits himself in two forms, either with four hands or with two hands, right? So the four-handed forms are there in the Vaikuntha Lokas, and the two-handed form is there in the this one in the Goloka Vrindavan, right? So the Vishwarupa exhibited in the material manifestation has unlimited hands and unlimited dimensions, with everything is unlimited, right? The pure devotee of the Lord worship him in his Vaikuntha forms as Narayana or Krishna. Sometimes the same Vaikuntha form of the Lord are in the are in the material world also by his grace as Sri Rama, Sri Narsimha, Sri Krishna, Sri Narsimha Deva, etc. And that the pure devotees also worship them. So, like the Lord very mercifully descends, from the spiritual world in one of his 400 or 200 forms, and then the devotees can actually worship, such forms of the Lord. And when he incarnates, that creates the subject matter for Srimad Bhagavatam and the other Puranas and things like that. So that becomes a source of nourishment for the devotees. Okay. And thus the pure devotees also worship them. Usually the features shown in the material world have no existence in the Vaikuntha planets, and thus they are not accepted by the pure devotees. So what the pure devotees worship from the very beginning are the eternal forms of the Lord existing in the Vaikuntha planets. So these eternal forms are like, Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, and all of them are eternal forms. So, but then the other form, material forms, that is what has been displayed in the material world, that is the Virata Rupa it is concerning to, right? So that the devotees doesn't worship upon. So the non-devotee impersonalist imagine the material forms of the Lord and ultimately they merge in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. Whereas the pure devotees of the Lord are worshippers of the Lord both in the beginning and also in the perfect stage of salvation eternally. So impersonalists, they worship the materialistic form of the Lord and they merge in the Brahma Jyoti. So then there is no worship. Once you merge in the Brahma Jyoti, there is no worship. But then the devotees of the Lord, they worship the Lord, in the beginning, and after in the perfected stage, they worship the Lord in the transcendental world, in the Vaikuntha Loka. So there is no difference in their activity after liberation. So the worship of pure devotees never stops, whereas the worship of the impersonalist stops after his attainment of salvation, when he merges in the impersonal form of the Lord known as Brahma Jyoti. So And also it is the impersonalist, for them the method of worship is very very harsh. Kleshodikattarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam. So it is very very difficult, no, their path of worship is, no, it is very like what is it um, it inflicts misery upon us, no, that very very harsh kind of worship the impersonalists do. And like that is why, you know, they want salvation, they want mukti, and they just want to get rid of that worship at no any point in time. So they just want to like no attain salvation and be free from, you know, this kind of harsh kind of worships. So but then the devotee, he worships the Lord with so much of joy, you know, like it is mentioned susukam kartam avyayam, no, it is the worship of the Supreme Lord is very happily performed. You know, the arati performed to the Lord, or the bhoga, the naivedya that is offered, or the chanting the names of the Lord, all of them are source of bliss, no, source of happiness. So in that way, like the worship of the Supreme Lord, you know, done in a proper way by the devotees of the Lord, no, they are very happily done. And the devotee always hankers for more and more association with the Lord. No, he is not satisfied with a little bit of association with the Lord. So he's always wanting to have more and more association with the Lord. And in that way, like he is transferred to the, you know, Vaikuntha Loka, and there he continues to serve the Supreme Lord. Right? So therefore, the pure devotees of the Lord are described here as vipaschita, or learned, who are in knowledge of the Lord perfectly. Okay. Text 36. Savacha vacha kataya bhagavan brahma rupadrik nama rupa kriya datte sakarma karma kaparaha. He, the personality of God, had manifested himself in a transcendental form, being the subject of his transcendental name, quality, pastimes, entourage, and transcendental variegatedness. Although he is unaffected by all such activities, he appears to be so engaged. Purport. When there is a need of material creation, the transcendental personality of Godhead accepts forms in the material world for creation, maintenance, and destruction. One should be intelligent enough to know his activities in truth and not be biased to conclude that he descends to the material world by accepting a form created by material nature. So this is how the Mayavadis say that when the Lord comes here, oh, he has accepted a material form to come and display his pastimes. So that's very, very offensive. Any form accepted from the material nature has its affection for everything done in the material world. A conditioned soul who accepts a material form or undergoing a certain term of material activities is subjected to the laws of matter. But here in this verse, it is clearly stated that although the forms and activities of the Lord appear to be the same as those of a conditioned soul, they are supernatural and impossible for the conditioned soul. So whatever the Lord does, it is impossible for us to do. No, it is supernatural, right? So he, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always unaffected by such activities. In Bhagavad Gita 4:14, the Lord says, Namam karmani limpanti name karma phalaspriha iti mam yo abhijanati karmabir na sabhadyate. So this one, Namam karmani limpanti. I am not affected by the like what is it the karmic activities, and name karma phalaspriha. So this basically there is no this one there is the Lord is not affected by the karmic reactions, the Lord is not affected by the fruits of the karma and things like that. Iti mam yo abhijanati. Like if a person knows me in this form that I am not affected by the material nature, so what happens to him? Karma bir na sa badhyate. So such a person also will not be touched by karma. No, that's an amazing thing. If we understand that the Lord is beyond the karmic activities, then we also know we are also like liberated from the karmic activities. So that's an amazing this one, right? So the Lord is never affected by the activities which he apparently performs by his different interactions and personality, different incarnations and personalities. Nor does he have any desire to achieve success by fruitive activities. The Lord is full by his different potencies of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. And thus, he has no reason for physical exertion like the conditioned soul. Therefore, an intelligent person who can distinguish between the transcendental activities of the Lord and the activities of the conditioned soul is also not bound by the reactions of the activities. So this is same thing is mentioned. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatpatah. No, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti, so Arjuna. So one who understands the Lord's activities, Lord is beyond this material nature. Immediately he also gets immune from the material nature. Now, understanding the Lord's activities to be transcendental to the material nature, liberates one. No, that's so amazing. No, so the Lord as Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva conducts the three modes of material nature. From Vishnu is born Brahma, and from Brahma is born Shiva. Sometimes Brahma is a separated part of Vishnu, and sometimes Brahma is Vishnu himself. So it is, yeah, in different universes, like, no, Brahma has to be officiated. So who can be put as a Brahma? So one who has performed the Varnashrama Dharma perfectly for 1000 lifetimes, he becomes the qualified person to be a Brahma. So in the absence of a living entity like that, so then the post cannot be given to anyone and everyone. So then the Vishnu himself becomes Brahma and he manages the universal affairs. So that is the same for Indra and all other positions of the Devatas. Whichever position of Devata, like there is a vacancy and there is no qualified person to officiate that, no, it's very simple. The Lord can expand and he can manage everything single-handed. So he has just created the universe so that all of us, we wanted to be the Lord. And so to create a position for us to be the Lord has created this thing. And in case if somebody is not qualified to be a particular departmental in charge, the Lord can very easily expand and handle everything. Now, if none of these devatas are there, still the Lord can handle everything. No, it is not at all a difficult task for him, right? So that is the thing that is mentioned. Sometimes Brahma is a separated part of Vishnu, that is Vibhinna Amsha, or sometimes the Brahma is Vishnu himself, that is a Swamsha, right? Swamsha means Vishnu himself. Vibhinna Amsha means a living entity. So thus Brahma creates the different species of life all over the universe, which means that the Lord creates the whole manifestation either by himself or through the agency of his authorized deputies. So no, just Lord is completely competent to create every single aspect of the creation. But then if somebody wants to be the creator, like, okay, fine, no, I'll give you the energy, you create. So it's like that. So no, it is only because the living entity wants to do different things. The Lord is giving some powers to do the things. Okay. So next set of slokas 37 to 40. Prajapatin Manun Devan Rishin Pitrugunan Prutak Siddha Charana Gandharvan Vidyadharasura Guhyakan Kinnarapsaro Nagan Sarpa Kimpurushan Naran Matra Raksha Pishachamscha Preta Bhuta Vinayakan Kushmandonmada Vetalan Yatu Danan Grihanapi Khagan, Mrugan, Pashun, Vrikshan, Girin, Ripa, Parish, Shripan, Vidas, Chatur, Vidayenye, Jalastala, Nabaukashaha, Kaushala, Kushala, Mishra, Karmanam, Gatayas, Tvaimam, Imaha. Okay. So the translation, O King, know from me that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. This includes Brahma and his sons like Daksha, the periodical heads like the Vaivasvata Manu, the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, the great sages like Bruhu, Vyasa, and Vashishta, the inhabitants of Pitraloka and Siddhaloka, Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Asuras, Yakshas, Kinnaras, and angels, the serpentines, the monkey-shaped Kimpurushas, the human beings, the inhabitants of Martyaloka, and the demons, Pishachas, ghosts, spirits, lunatics, and evil spirits, the good and evil stars, the goblins, the animals in the forest, the birds, the household animals, the reptiles, the mountains, the moving and standing living entities, the living entities born from embryos, from egg, from perspiration, and from seed, and all others, whether they be in the water, land, or sky, in happiness, in distress, or in mixed happiness and distress, all of them, according to their past deeds, are created by the Supreme Lord. So this is the effect of the karmic reactions. So based on our accumulation of karma, So we may get any of these permutations and combinations. One is the kind of species of life, another is the kind of experience, the kind of birth that a person takes, from the embryo or from the egg or perspiration or from the seed and all others. And another thing is like, the kind of happiness and distress that they may be going through. So these are all different kinds of entities that is created by the Lord based on the one's past karma. Okay, so the varieties of living entities are mentioned in this list, and with no exception, from the topmost planet down to the lowest planet of the universe, all of them in different species of life are created by the Almighty Father Vishnu, right? So Aham Bija Pratapita. So like the Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, no, Sarva Yoneshu Kaunteya Aham Bija Pratapita. That means of all the living entities, all the different kinds of species of life that existing, I am the seed giving father of all of them, right? So therefore, no one is independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 14:4, the Lord therefore claims all living entities as his offsprings in the following verse. No, Sarva Yoneshu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiyaha Tasham Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapita. The material nature is compared to the mother. Although every living being is seen to come out of the mother's body, it is still a fact that the mother is not the ultimate cause of such a birth. The father is the ultimate cause of the birth. Without the father's seed, no mother can give birth to a child. Therefore, the living being in different varieties of forms and positions within the innumerable universes are all born of the seed of Almighty Father, the personality of Godhead. And only to the man with a poor fund of knowledge do they appear to be born of the material nature. Being under the material energy of the Supreme Lord, all living entities beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant are manifested in different bodies according to their past deeds. The material nature is one of the energies of the Lord. No, that is 7.4. Anyways, like we discussed that quite often, and in the previous slokas also we saw that Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayo Tummuno Buddhirevacha, that sloka. So the material nature is inferior in comparison to the living entities, the superior nature. The superior nature and inferior nature of the Lord combine to manifest all universal affairs. So some of the living entities are relatively happy in better conditions of life, whereas the others are in distressed conditions of life. Okay, but